Welcome back to my Kerbal Space Program for Complete Newbies tutorial. This is Jason, here to walk you through our next phase of learning in basic rocketry and orbital mechanics. We have so far built a small rocket that went up, collected some science, came back down, a rocket that went into space, collected some science, came back down, a rocket that orbited Kerbal, collected some science, and then returned to the surface. And finally, on our last mission, we went around the Mun and gathered some science there as well. So doing all that and unlocking all that science has given us access to some new parts, which is going to come in very handy for our next mission, where we are going to go all the way out to Minmus, which is the smaller and further of Kerbin's two moons, and we are going to land and collect some science. So again, building from the reverse, I'm going to start with, hey, let's land our ship safely. So we want our parachutes, our 3 radial parachutes, just like we've been using. And we want our science module that we're going to carry with us the entire time. So put the Science Junior on here. And slap our experiments by the door so we can get to them fairly easily. Our thermometer, our barometer, and of course our radially mounted mystery goo containers. So there we go. There's our pod. Just like last time, we're going to equip it with a heat shield because we're going to be landing much like we did in the last round. So from here, things are going to be a little bit different because our return ship, the next stage is the return ship from Minmus. And so we're going to put this on here, and we're going to use a Terrier engine, which gives us quite a bit of delta V, especially in a space like Minmus, where which doesn't have much gravity at all, even less than the moon. So the escape velocity is even lower, which is good because really our plan is once we lift off to just fling ourselves back at Kerbal and hope for the best. We're not going to try to circularize our orbit or anything when we get back. We're just going to hit the atmosphere, trim any extra delta V we can if we need to circularize and then aero brake, or if we're really lucky, we're just going to try to nail it in one. So I prefer the nail it in one go. I think it's more elegant, but hey, your mileage may vary. So next we are going to, so this is going to be a little bit different. We're actually going to put some radial tanks on the side here. And these fuel tanks, we're going to use the 400s. They're going to be a little bit bigger than the actual tank underneath. Oops, let me make sure I get this aligned correctly. So these are actually going to be the main sort of stage for this lander. And I'm going to use they're not quite set right. Yeah, all right. You got to kind of get it straight on there if you can. That's what I was looking for. And I'm going to use the offset to drag them up just a little. It's about the same anyway. Yeah, is that right? Maybe they were fine where they were. So you can hit Control-Z, just like on any application, you can hit Control-Z to undo what you just did. So, so this stage, we're going to put the 3 more Terriers here. And we want to put some nose cones on top of these because we're still going to be launching. Okay. It's looking pretty good. So this lander is going to kind of serve double duty. It's going to get us to Minmus's surface, but then it's also going to get us off of Minmus's surface, back into orbit, and then back to Kerbal. So we're going to have enough fuel to do that. And I'm going to go ahead and, so one of the pieces we unlocked last time is the fuel duct, which is one of the most important pieces in the game for building efficient rockets. What it allows you to do is drain fuel from one tank into another as you're firing. So what I've just done here is told the 3 external tanks to drain fuel into the main tank as it's firing. And so if we group those engines together, so all 4 engines are firing at once, that means that this tank will be draining not only into the engine, but also constantly refueling the tank in the center as we go. So what will happen is these 3 engines will actually burn out a little faster. And then this one, when we decouple the engines from the main ship, this tank will still be full, the one in the middle. And the reason we're doing that is it allows us to shed more weight sooner, and create generally a more fuel efficient ship. So I just put landing struts on it because we are going to land, which is awesome. We're going to not start extended. We want to tuck them up under. I'll get a little more into kind of how we build using that sort of using the fuel duct here in just a second. I'm going to show you an even better technique that we can use for lower stages. So we also want lights this time around, because when you're landing on a surface, lights can actually, and you've never done it before, lights can be an enormous help. And if we're powering lights and we have a reaction wheel here, we're also going to need batteries because we're going to need to keep things powered above and beyond what we normally do. So I'm going to switch over to double radial offset and stick the batteries, kind of tuck them up under the, it should be okay, tuck them up under the science, what do you call it there? Mystery goo containers. Actually, I can just drag those a little up. No, not 3. That gives the batteries a little more. Now, to power the batteries or to recharge the batteries, we need solar panels. And I'm going to stick 3 panels on the outside here so they can catch some sun. And then I'm also going to stick some panels on the main ship because at some point we're going to get rid of those 3 external engines. So I'm going to stick panels on the side of the ship. Now, this isn't the best design because it only means we could charge if this side of the ship is facing the sun, but it will do for now. We don't have a lot of extra space to stick stuff on this thing, so that's going to have to do. So I'm going to do one more little thing. I'm going to strut our stuff. So these 3 external engines have a little strength between them because they can really start shaking if they're firing full throttle. Oh, I think I didn't. Yeah, I didn't use symmetry, so no problem. Just do it like that, and there we go. There is our lander. It's looking pretty good. I'm feeling pretty confident about that. Now, our goal is to get this thing into orbit and then get it all the way out to Minmus. So let's stage her properly. Where is it? There we go. Coupling. Stack the coupler. Stick that under the center engine. Okay. So we have also unlocked the Rocco Max fuel tanks, which, as you can see, are significantly larger than the ones we've been using so far. That's good because larger means holds more fuel, generally more powerful, but it also means we need something like an adapter like that in order to kind of bridge the gap between components. So we're going to stick this guy under here, and then we're going to go back to the fuel tank, and we're going to stick a second one of those guys under here, and this is going to be our main ship once we get into space. So we've also unlocked new Rocco Max size engines. The Poodle, which is a small Rocco Max engine, not not great for what we need to do right now. So its max thrust is not a heck of a lot more than the Reliant. It's good for doing like kind of small in-system maneuvers on larger ships, but for what we want, you can see the max thrust in a vacuum on the Skipper is much higher. So we're going to give it a Skipper. Boop. Oops, hold on. Okay, let's make sure. Yep, okay, that's that decoupler. Okay, so our staging's all good. Great, so far so good. Okay, so it's pretty good. This is going to be a really strong rocket, which is what we want. The next thing we're going to do is add the boosters that are going to actually get us into orbit. And we're going to add 4 of them radially using this newly unlocked decoupler. This is nice because it gives you a little more room between your main ship and the fuel tanks you've got going on the side. So I'm going to stick 4 of these guys on here. Whoops. Come on. Stick, stick, stick. There we go. And we also, just for aerodynamic purposes, we're going to stick a big old nose cone on top. So we don't want to, we want to reduce drag as we're lifting off. And finally, well, not quite finally, we're going to put 4 more skippers on here. So this thing is really going to cook once we get rocket and rolling. We don't have a huge wing control surface to deal with, so we're kind of left with a smaller winglet. In order to control a rocket this large, we should, in theory, if we're doing this right, have larger wings. So what I'm going to do instead is stick maybe even more of these than we need, but I'm kind of the mind that you can't have too much control surface on your rocket. Okay, so if we launch this right now, what would happen is we would burn the 4 engines on the side, then get rid of them all at the same time, then fire the Skipper in the middle and keep going, which is fine. That would probably get us to orbit with a little bit of fuel to spare. But we can make this ship far more efficient than just what we've done so far, using the external fuel duct and a technique called asparagus staging. Don't know why it's called asparagus staging, but it may be because you could build a rocket that looks like a giant bunch of asparagus. I don't know. So what I'm doing, remember how I told you that this will refuel a tank in addition to burning the engine or burning the fuel in the tank you have. So the 2 tanks on this tank and the one sort of catty corner to it are going to burn out first, and they're going to be firing and draining into this other side tank at the same time. So they're going to go very quickly, which means we can shed the weight from those boosters very, very quickly, which leaves us then with 3 engines burning because we're going to stage it so the main engine is burning at the same time until these boosters burn out. At the same time that these boosters are burning, they're also refilling the tank in the center. So they're going to burn fairly quickly. But still not quite as fast as the first 2. And then what that leaves us with at the end is the middle engine, this 4th stage that I'm dragging down into stage 5 right now. Once we shed all 4 boosters, this tank will be completely full, but this engine will have been firing and giving us thrust the whole time. It's a much more efficient way to use your engines and your rocket because it'll, like I said earlier, it allows you to just shed weight sooner, and the less you can weigh with the more thrust, the better. And this works both in atmosphere and in whoops, I forgot to use mirroring. This works both in atmosphere and in space. In a vacuum, works the same. The principle works the same. So there you go. That is asparagus staging, which is going to be extremely useful, and you will see in our next mission, it will help us get all the way out to Duna. Spoiler alert, we're going to Duna in the next mission. So once we do this, okay, strut our stuff. So we're going to call this lovely vessel the Hairball, because it's kind of like spitting a hairball into orbit. Oh, there was one other thing I wanted to show you guys. That's right. Let me just do this real quick while I'm here at our cool little launch things, so the engines aren't resting directly on the launch pad. That's largely for aesthetic reasons at this point, but it does look cool and it makes a neat sound when it launches. So one other thing. So this button, the action group button, is a great way to consolidate different actions just by the pressing of a single button. Say, for example, you wanted to assign all of your science experiments to the button 9. So all you have to do is click on the part. It gives you the options that you have. So we want to observe materials bay. We want to observe the mystery goo. We want to do a crew report. We want to log the temperature. And we want to log the pressure data, all with button 9. So what that does is allow us to run all our science experiments with one button, so I don't have to right-click on everything as we go. If I was smart, I probably would have showed you that earlier, but there you are. So we're going to launch this with Annie in the driver's seat. How are we doing on time? Okay. I think we can get us to orbit. That should work. So let's save, and let's go to launch. To Minmus. All right, another cool night launch. That'll be fun. Okay, to launch this bad boy, we're going to throttle all the way up. I'm going to turn the SAS on this time around. In theory, the reaction wheel and this many fins shouldn't be fighting too hard for control with each other. And this rocket is going to be pretty hard to control. So when you guys launch this, it may take a couple, 3 tries for you to actually get to orbit. And in fact, if I didn't do this correctly, I will probably cut the video where I started the launch and start over. But we'll see how it goes. Okay, so here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. SAS to prograde. So watch how the fuel burns through the engines, and you can see exactly how the asparagus staging works. I'll kind of call it out as we go too, but I don't know why she's so worried. Things are going pretty well so far. So while it looks like the fuel's burning evenly from all the engines, or mostly evenly, when we actually shed the first stage of boost, that's a problem. Yeah, hold on. That is a problem. Hold on. She was right to look worried. Okay. I forgot to do something pretty big. This is good. So, an important part of asparagus staging is these don't all fire at the same time. I'm glad I noticed that before we got to where we were going. So deselect those and drag this one down into stage 5. And what I'm doing is I'm staging the two boosters that will drain first separately. So they will, when this booster and this booster drain, I want them to go pop. So that's stage 5. And then when this booster and the other booster drain, I want them to slough off, and that's stage 4. Save and launch. See, Kerbal's about a lot of going, oh, I forgot that. Luckily, we forgot that 30 seconds into the launch, not on our way down to the surface of Duna, which is a really bad place. In theory, I could actually mess with the staging while I'm in flight, but because I was controlling the ship at the same time, that's a little risky. So I'd rather just pause the game and go back to the vehicle assembly building and just start over. So, all right, here we go. Fire, fire, fire. So as I was saying, watch how the fuel drains. This booster and this booster are going to go first, and then when I eject them, when I fire the decouplers. The other fuel tanks are going to go back to being full because of how I'm not sure exactly. They should just be reading full because frankly the fuel is just draining into them, but that's kind of how KSP works. So go. SAS to prograde. Okay, 100 meters per second. We're going to start our gravity turn. There's a lot of thrust coming out of these 4 engines right now. It is convincing the ship to go, even at a 45-degree angle, is pretty tough. So I'm tapping and holding W at intervals to gently nudge us. You want to make this a gentle arc over towards that 45. Zoom out a little bit so you can see. We're getting there. So when this goes, don't go too far now. Correcting a little with S because we want to keep that as close to 45 as we can. W to even us out. Yep. Even Steven, come on. Control. There we go. Let the SAS kind of take over for a second. Return us to prograde since our prograde indicator is looking pretty good. Okay, starting to hit supersonic. You can see the wind. Okay, so we've almost burned all the fuel in those first boosters. Which is cool. And as soon as we lose those, we're going to be a lighter ship with a lot more thrust. And burnout. We're probably going to scrape as they go. Because I didn't get the Separatrons. Yep. Oh, wow. I can't believe it. They actually, there they go. So, they hit each other on the way down. So you can see now the fuel in these tanks and these remaining tanks are full. So I'm going to switch over to map mode. Swing around here. Get a beat on how we're flying. Speed's looking good. Apoapsis is 14,000 feet and climbing. Looking great. I don't think we could have asked for a better launch, to be honest. So we're going to keep it at this 45-degree angle until we get a little closer to maybe 15,000 meters. So you can see here again, these are burning out faster than the one in the center. And the one in the center is actually even a much bigger tank. It's double the size of the 2 boosters on the side. So I'm going to switch over back to the map view so we can check on our apoapsis. Good. A good rule of thumb is you want your time to the apoapsis to be T-minus 60 seconds or higher. So we're getting there. But if it's going down, that means you've got a problem. So if it's going like 47, 46, 45, that means you're either turning too shallowly or something. So and actually you can see that the prograde markers kind of slid down a little bit on our nav ball. Not too big of a deal. I think we're going to be okay. In fact, I may just fly from map mode for a second because using the data is going to be easier than flying by hand. That's how Charles Lindbergh flew across the Atlantic. Not really. He didn't use a window though. So our time is climbing. That's good. That's what we want. Make sure we're not. Yeah, we're starting to get a little hot here, but I knew that was going to happen. So we can actually even throttle down just a bit, which will save us some fuel efficiency. climbing at speed, still climbing in time and altitude. Good. All is well. Still cooking, but not going too fast. We're going to shed our next stage boosters here in just a second. Yeah, looking nice. Looking good. Actually going to tap us down even just a little bit more. The more you can kind of flatten out now, the less you have to burn at circularization, which is always good. So, okay, those boosters, yeah, as I said, they've got to be burned out. And there they go. Generally, you want to get rid of those exactly the second they burn out, so you're not hauling just worthless weight around. Whoopsies. That wasn't what I wanted to press. So you're not hauling worthless weight around with you. Just to be clear, I did not mean to kill my throttle. That was a mistake. Although we are going to kill it here in just a second. Okay, looking good. Just want to check one more time. We hit about 73,000. We'll kill it. That should give us enough leeway in case we drag brings us back down. Okay, there we go. So, drag is going to take our apoapsis down a little bit, but that's okay, because we're just going to burn prograde to circularize. That's not going to be right. Wow, it's not going to be the most circular of orbits. Let's see if we can do it better. What happened there? Why are we not? Why is our apoapsis so much greater than our periapsis? That's better. Okay. SAS to maneuver. So you'll notice it's taking us a long time to move. That's because right now there's not enough atmosphere to really use our fins, and it's only going off the electric reaction wheel in the command pod, which is, you can't really see anything because it's completely dark, which is not really strong enough to move a giant rocket of this size. And we have not unlocked RCS or any of the other things that allow for subtle maneuvers. So we will soon, but not at the moment. All right, so we've got a node and estimated burn of a minute. So we're going to hit our node and hit our burn at 30 seconds. So we're going to time warp just a teeny little bit. Okay. Since we are in the upper atmosphere, I'm going to go ahead and hit 9 and run all our experiments. Anything that we don't use, we can just reset. So crew report, yes, we'll keep it. Atmospheric pressure scan, don't need it. Recycle, mystery goo observation, we'll keep that. We can't have both. Okay. Do we not do the science, Junior? Shoot. Thought we did. Yeah, that would be a pain in the butt. Yes. All right. You can see our engine still glowing from how hot it is. And temperature does matter with engines. If we were to re-enter with an engine like that and start burning it, it would, facing retrograde, it would burn up pretty quick in the atmosphere. And we're in space. All right, and we're burning. Let's switch over to map view here so we can keep an eye on us as we circularize our orbit. good. Okay, and kill it, and shift. And there we go. And we're good. Not exactly circular, but actually even better than the maneuver we planned. We're above the atmosphere, which is good. We've got half a tank of fuel left, which is awesome. So, there is Minmus, our destination. We're going to call this video here, and we will pick up here next time. So I'm going to go ahead and hit F5 to quick save our game, and I will see you again next time as we head out to Minmus and try to land.